البنك المركزي.
Are you ready? Excellency, you could nearly call developments in the Egyptian economy over recent years an economical miracle. Would you shortly care to describe the developments, how this miracle came about?
In fact, you know, there is now an attitude in the government which are very serious in dealing with the economic matters, because this is very important for the activities of the people and for the standard of living of the people. So since President Mubarak came to power, he gave a lot of his time to the economic problems in order to raise the standard of living, especially after we had peace with our neighbor Israel. So now the foreign policy is taking a turn, with the economic policy taking the upper hand now. So we have the 5-year plan. In the 5-year plan, we try to put some force on the economic criteria which develop the economy very fast. One of these is how to develop our resources in a way which should be directed to economic development. So the first thing is to develop our resources. The second thing is how wisely could we spend, you know, these resources in economic sectors which should produce the most gain to the economy. So in this direction, we gave some priorities to certain areas, which is agriculture and industry, which is the main springs of the economic development. In addition, we are encouraging also the foreign exchange to come to the country, either through Egyptian remittances, you know, from workers working abroad, or through our exports. So in this direction, we are developing our resources, utilizing our resources in a better way and in an economic way. And the first year of the plan shows that we have achieved significant results. You know, rate of growth of GDP in real terms is about 7.5%. The second thing is that, you know, we are not facing so many problems as we used to face in the past because of the waste of the resources which used to go here and there. So now we are in the second year of...
Here and there, is that the military you're thinking of?
Sorry?
You said you're not wasting as many resources.
No, I mean, you know, because when you don't have a plan, so you don't choose the projects which have a high priority. So sometimes you are using your resources for projects which have a low priority for the sake of, you know, trying to implement this project for the sake of certain social aspects rather than economic aspects. So now we are balancing the social and the economic aspects in order to achieve a better return. So in this case, we achieved 7.5% in real term of GDP, increasing our exports, increasing our export earning, whether goods or services, and economizing in the use of resources in something which doesn't have any return, like government expenditure, for example, when there is a waste in some of the expenditure, traveling abroad, you know, doing something which doesn't benefit the economy at large. So in this case, we thank goodness, you know, that we achieved some good results, you know, during the first year and a half of the plan, and we are striving to achieve more in the future. The second thing is that also that you know that we are facing a problem of higher rate of growth of population. Now we are giving, you know, certain strengths, you know, to reduce the rate of growth of population by different means, you know, birth control and teaching, you know, the people and educating, you know, the women, especially in the countryside. So, and this we hope also to achieve and will be a complementation to the economic development program.
You have probably never earned so much hard sorry, you have probably never earned so much hard currency as you're doing in the moment. On the other hand, you spend a tremendous amount of money just on importing food because of the rising population. Is that the biggest problem that are facing Egyptian finance?
Yes, it is one of the biggest problems because, as you know, we are earning a lot of money, but at the same time, we are spending a lot of money. One of the important issues is the rate of population growth and its effect on the rate of increase in consumption expenditure. Most of our food items are imported from outside. So the present policy now is to increase the productivity of land, especially in food areas, in grains, in order to reduce reliance on imports. And we achieved some significant success in this area, especially in the field of maize, cotton, vegetables, fruits. And this will help us to satisfy the internal demand as well as to export the rest to the outside world.
Do you think you can keep up the present growth in the Egyptian economy if the population growth continues?
You know, we can keep it, but of course, as you know, that if you want to keep the standard of living, you know, high, you have to increase the rate of growth of GDP more or far more than the rate of population of growth. Of course, this requires a lot of resources in order to invest. You know, nobody can, you know, guarantee that we are going to have this rapid increase in real resources for a long period. So it is better to reduce on one hand and try the rate of population growth and try to increase, you know, to a much higher degree also the rate of increase in our resources.
But even if you succeed in your population control program, experts say that around year 2000 there will be between 60 and 70 million Egyptians. Can you sustain such a big population?
You know, I am sure that, you know, because, you know, it is the problem of productivity of population. Once you have a population trained to have enough productivity, I am sure that we can sustain the increase in population, you know, in the year 2000. And as you know, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea are sustaining their population because they have a high productivity of population, which can even import raw materials and produce it and then export it. But what I am after is that first to achieve, you know, self-sustained growth. Secondly, to try to produce as much as we can in order to reduce reliance on imports, and then after that, you know, we can export what we don't need inside the country. Of course, a short or a small increase in population growth will help us to achieve this very quickly.
How are your efforts developing? Are they developing well, or are you facing many problems?
I know actually we are doing well, but this doesn't mean that we don't have any problem. Because of course, you know, when you are working, you are bound to have some difficulties. So some of the difficulty, of course, is that, you know, resources, how to balance, you know, your requirement of resources with the resources generated. And this, of course, because in the first era of development, you require some resources coming from abroad. So here we are relying on the external sector to supply us with loans, with grants, in order to supplement our internal resources. This is one thing. The second thing, of course, is we have a dilemma here that, you know, some of the Egyptians are, you know, going abroad in order to work in the Gulf area and all the rest. Of course, they are bringing us some money back, but at the other end, you know, we are sacrificing some of our technical resources which are working there, and we need them here. So the problem now is to generate more of our population for the technical skill and develop them in order to satisfy the demand outside as well as the demand inside the country. So this is also another problem, and we are facing it with the training of more and more of our population to satisfy both the demand internally and externally. The second thing, also generation of internal revenue. Also it is a problem because, as you know, we are a developing country, and in a developing country the administration of the taxation system is not as good as it is in the developed countries. So we need to train our people also in order to achieve a higher rate of efficiency in order to catch, the taxes from everybody, in the sense that what the law says we are getting, the amount of taxes. So this is another problem which we are tackling also.
When when some international bodies, and I'm thinking of the International Monetary Fund, looks upon the Egyptian state of economical affairs and financial affairs, they often reproach, or nearly reproach, the Egyptians for giving the heavy food subsidies. What is your comment to those things?
In fact, the IMF is, working on a classical approach. The classical approach is he is taking the economic side without taking the social part of the problem. In a real world, you have to take both the economic and the social problems. Of course, in a country where most of the population, or at least a large proportion of the population, are living on the near the subsistent level, you feel that if you are giving them subsidy, you are giving them the subsidy in order to keep.
Excuse me, I think we. Would you like to take this telephone?
Hello? It's out.
Okay, I'll. If you can repeat the whole of your answer to the question about food subsidies, because
Yes.
it was spoiled by the phone.
As I'm telling you, the IMF is working on a classical approach, which is, depending on the economic factors and leaving out the social factors. First, in Egypt, as I am saying, that most of the population, or a large proportion of the population, are living near the subsistent level, around $500 a year. And of course, if you want these people to live in the face of mounting inflation in the world as a whole, you have to give them some food subsidies in order to achieve a standard of living which keeps them going and be efficient in their work in the economy too, as a laborer. So in this case, you have to give these subsidies. The second thing is that if you want, as the International Monetary Fund is saying that you want to cut the subsidies, of course you have to have a wage structure which is sufficient to keep these people going, of course, in relation to productivity and to the standard of living as well. But if you want, to stress that you should cut subsidy and then don't raise the wage structure of the country, this is not important. You can't do it. But you have to balance both the wage and the cost structure in a way in order to achieve your social and economic gains. So we feel here that we are doing the right approach now by saying that we are stressing economic factors, that we should use our resources in an efficient way to achieve a better return on our capital. This is one thing. The second thing is that, of course, to raise the standard of living of the people and not to lower the standard of living, because if you give the people a minimum standard, then you can ask them to contribute to the production of the economy. And I feel that the IMF has conceded to our point of view, and then what they are saying now is that instead of doing it in 2 or 3 years, you can stretch it on a large number of years.
If you abolish the food subsidies, do you think the same could happen here, like it has been happening before and what has been happening in Morocco and Tunisia recently?
Of course, once you are desperate, I can't predict what a poor man can do. But you know, the thing is that stability of the country is very important for our economic progress and for our, you know, living too. So once you achieve stability, you don't want, you know, to jeopardize it. If you are pushing, you know, by saying that economic reform needs such and such, everybody knows that economic reforms require something, but sometimes you have to strike a balance between the social and economic, you know, factors in order to achieve the optimum level of economic growth. And this is what we are doing here, taking into consideration, of course, the economic loss from subsidies and the economic gains as well from subsidies, from social as well as economic factors. And we are trying to cut, you know, the inefficient use of subsidies.
When President Mubarak took over, he initiated a campaign against corruption and inefficiency. How much does these two factors hamper the progress and developments in Egypt?
You know, I don't think it hampers, you know, the economic progress in Egypt, because if you live in a healthy atmosphere, so of course it will help that you can progress and progress very rapidly. Perhaps some of the, you know, inefficient or what I call the corrupted people may complain, but it is a complaint of the few who are corrupted rather than the major or the majority of the people who are honest. So I feel, you know, from my experience during the 2 years now, that the people are satisfied. Most of the people are happy that you are cutting corruption, and this is a requirement for further progress in the future.
Some foreign countries, I shall not name them, were giving aid to Egypt. They claim that they don't want to give so much cash aid because it often goes into the wrong pockets.
You know, that is what was, you know, or what we heard, you know, say about 5 years or 6 years ago. Now I think, you know, the situation has changed, and I feel that some of the countries are, which you are, you don't want to say to, are now, you know, last year they gave us some part in cash, because I think, you know, they trust the economic handling of our resources in the country. And I feel that they are going to continue doing that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'm supposed to do the talking. I'm supposed, you know, to pretend that I'm still making questions, and therefore you should please just listen to me. But I can tell you it's meant, as I told you before, it's meant for a report on Danish television Sunday night, which is a very favorable television time. We have a lot of viewers, and it'll deal with the progress in Egypt, which have been very substantial as far as I can see over recent years, but of course also with some of the problems that are facing Egypt. And especially we are concentrating upon the population problem and what is being done to bring it under control. And we have been out looking at some of the family planning units and talked to the chairman of the board, and I think it shows some progress.
Yes. But we need, you know, still a long,
at least stop and even
yeah.
decrease. Yeah. So it that is another positive sign. Do you want more, Juliana?
Yes, can the ministers.
Okay, I'll continue.
Can you give an answer to them? You can answer. Because I need his hand moving.
Yeah. But do you think really, and this is still only for technical reasons, do you think really that that Egypt will be able to bring down the population growth figures, and to what?
You know, of course, you know, I am sure that we are going to have a control over our population, but not within the very short period. You know, of course, you know, population problem is a long-term problem. and you have to educate the people to train them how to use control methods and all the rest, and this takes a long period to achieve a good results. But of course, we started now about 2 years or 3 years ago, and we achieved some success. But I'm not saying that this is the goal we want to achieve. No, we want to achieve more than that, and this, of course, will take, about 4 to 10 years in order to achieve good or very good results.
How much is Egypt earning now in foreign currency a year, from export, from aid, from